when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect, needing nothing. You think about that from a perspective as a father now, right? Like, there's things that my daughters go through that I will not be able to protect them from, as I mentioned before. There's things that this world will present to them that are just things that I would rather them not be presented with. I don't have control over those things, right? We're going to go through experiences that are troubles. And James, the book of James tells us, he said, consider it pure joy. Because in those moments, your endurance has a chance to grow. And when your endurance and your faith is fully developed, you can go through anything and be okay.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome.
What it do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the UpNUp Podcast on the UpNUp Network. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
What's up, boss? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Blessed, bro.
Yeah.
Blessed. That's been my response. Blessed, grateful. You know my attitude is gratitude.
Always.
Yeah. I don't got to go any further.
Yeah.
Last episode they had me quoting Kanye lyrics to express how much gratitude I had. So I'm not doing that this episode. But yeah, man, if this is your first time tuning in, as I stated, this is the UpNUp Podcast. This is the podcast where we're focused on cultivating culture, right? We do that by providing amazing stories of individuals, groups, movements, right?
Yes,
people who are carving lanes, right? Pioneers in their own right. Making a way for those currently here as well as those coming from behind, the next generation, right? And we always got to shout out the family members, right? Always, man.
Always.
Some people call them listeners. We call them family, right?
Yes, sir.
So for those of you out there, man, the supporters, the viewers, the listeners, anybody who's been tapping into the movement, not just the podcast, but the UpNUp platform as a whole, salute to you. We appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you, right?
Yes, sir.
And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the family, right? Right? You feeling good, man? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man.
We got the people in the building. Shout out to everybody who's here, right?
Yeah.
Show love. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, as I stated, what we focus on here is storytelling, right? And getting into the journeys and things of that nature. And we love bringing amazing people up here. And I'm excited because today's guest is someone who I would say truly exemplifies what it means to be a champion in all aspects, right? And he's definitely someone who has and will be continuing to inspire the champion in all of us, right?
Yes, sir.
Definitely a true culture cultivator who's keeping everything he's doing on the up and up, right? Right, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And since arriving here in Seattle in 2011, this brother has went on to make history in contributing and being a part of one of the most legendary runs in NFL history, as well as Seattle sports history, right? He's a Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler. And just to go further, in case y'all don't know, this man actually holds the record for having the second most touchdown receptions in Seahawks franchise history, as well as third most receiving yards and receptions in Seahawks history, right?
Yeah.
And furthermore, most recently, he was actually recognized for the 2021 Seahawks Legend of the Year award, in where he was being recognized for not only him, but his team's efforts and contributions in helping keeping our communities uplifted and supported, right? I can go on and on, right?
Oh, yeah.
But to be honest, man, this brother means a lot to the city of Seattle as well as the state of Washington and all of us here. And we're honored to have him here in the building today, man. Like, I even had to bring out I had to bring it out, man. So don't let the hammer fool you. We ain't here to play games, though, right? But our guest is none other than the young legend himself, Doug Baldwin Jr. Can we get a round of applause?
Yeah.
Give it up.
That's a warm welcome.
How you doing, brother?
I'm blessed.
Yes.
I'm blessed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Man. It's a pleasure to have you, boss.
It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate you
Pleasure
guys
having
inviting me.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Now, we always start our show off with a quote of the day, right? Something to get the vibe right, get the mood right, get the conversation started. And brother man here is the man with the quotes.
Got you.
They don't let me tell quotes up here.
Yeah. One day, man. Don't worry. I got you one day.
They cut me off. What
All
you
right.
got for us?
So the quote of the day is, change is inevitable. Change will always happen, but you have to apply direction to change. And that's when it's progress.
Who's that quote by?
Doug Baldwin himself, man.
I went to school with a brother like that.
I love that, man. I love that. Can you run that quote back for me one more time?
Yeah, I got you. I'll run it back. So the quote is, change is inevitable. change will always happen. But you have to apply direction to change, and that's when it's progress.
I love it, man. I love it. I think, well, speaking of change, and we usually bring in the quotes, obviously, because it kind of sets the tone for the conversation, right? And before we get into the journey and all that, I really feel like at least the last couple of years has been a journey for all of us in a sense, right? And in our own rights. And for you and you know, yourself, I guess through all the ups and downs that we all kind of face, but like what would have been some of the biggest takeaways for you in terms of like the last couple of years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if it's like a takeaway, but it kind of affirmed what I want to say I already knew, what I already believed, right? Was just the essence of love. I'm raising two daughters right now. And so, you know, going through the pandemic and really being forced to spend a lot of time with them. And then also with my wife, and then we got a third on the way.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's a blessing. But the thing that's probably come out of this, to me, that's reaffirmed is that it's about love. And I know that's like, usually when I say that, people just like, oh, it's a lot of fluff.
Yeah. But
I really mean that. Like, I reflect back on my time as a child and the things that I'm seeking and searching for now and as an adult, and more so being able to reflect back on like what my parents were doing at the time. Now that I'm a father and looking at my children and saying, okay, how do I be the best father for them, right? And the answer is always love. It is always love, and I can't even I'm a debater, right? You tell me something, if it's wrong, I'm gonna figure out why it's wrong, and we're gonna debate about it, right? But when it comes to love, the argument about love is like it's always the answer, and I can't find an answer the opposite of it.
No, that's real.
And so just going through the pandemic and a lot of the things that we've been dealing with in society in general, to me, the answer has always been love. And I don't know, that's the past few years that's really been reaffirmed for me.
Yeah, no, that's real. And I think it's like sometimes we need those affirmations. It's sometimes like usually those cliche things are actually all that matters sometimes. But we kind of neglect them because
they're cliche for a reason.
People are tired of hearing about it, but if you just stop and listen, you'll realize it's true.
People have been saying them for a reason too.
Yeah, no, that's real. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I did kind of want to get your kind of quick initial thoughts. Obviously, elephant in the room, elephant in the city, I guess. We with Russell Wilson being traded and kind of, I guess, kind of putting the capper in on that chapter in that era, which you had a major part in playing a hand in. What were some of kind of your quick initial thoughts on like that whole situation or when it happened?
I mean, at the foundation of it, it's just sad. You know, from being in the locker room and understanding everything that it takes to get to that mountaintop. And then to cultivate a culture, a winning culture, where you go to the Super Bowl, you go to another one, and you cultivate this culture of family, which you guys talk about on this podcast. Like, that's real in that locker room. It was real in that locker room. I can't speak for it now because I'm not there, but when we were there, that's what it was. And I know from the outside perspective, it may look at like, oh, you guys were fighting all the time, arguing all the time. Ain't that what family does?
Yeah, that's real.
Exactly.
You know?
That's real.
Yeah.
Like, if you care about somebody and they're fucking up, excuse me, I'm sorry, is this a family?
No, you're good.
You're good, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you family with somebody, if you care about somebody and they fucking up, you gonna tell them, right?
Yeah, that's real.
Because you care about them, right? And I know from the outside perspective, that's always what that's always the conversation that anytime I talk about the Seahawks or Russ or anybody else, like it's always about that. But it's when I look at what has transpired, it's really sad because we had a culture of like, you come in, it doesn't matter if you're a first-round draft pick or you're an undrafted cat, you are part of the family, but you're going to be held accountable to the standard that we set.
Yeah.
And that's what family does. And so for it to fall apart the way that it has, and I got to be honest, a lot of us kind of felt like it was moving in that direction. But it's still, at the end of the day, even though it happened, it's still sad because it's the end of an era, right? There's so many memories, so many good things that came out of it, but so many good things that could have even gone further than but it is what it is, you know. And I think he went to a great destination in Denver. They got a great team. So wish him the best. And I think the Seahawks, like they're realizing some things too right now, and they got to get back to what made them successful. And I think they're doing that. Yeah,
no, definitely. And I think it's kind of part of sports, right? When we watch sports, like I'm a huge Laker fan, and like You know, we've seen some transitions, right, when
Yeah.
Shaq left and things of that nature. And I think it's always different from a fan's perspective and a player's perspective, obviously. But, yeah, I think the overall consensus has been people just wish him the best, you know,
Yeah.
because, like you said, like back to that love thing, man, like the love that was created in the city through what you guys have done is undeniable, you know, and that trumps anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to take it back now. Just kind of talk about your upbringing, you know, growing up in Florida and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Gulf Breeze.
Where you want to start?
man, you can start wherever, bro.
Oh man, so yeah, I grew up in Gulf Breeze. Well, let me back up. So both of my grandfathers, they were in the military. So my dad's side, he was in the Navy. My mom's side, he was in the Air Force.
Okay.
So in the area I grew up in Fort Walton Beach, that was the biggest Air Force base there, right? So that's where my grandfather ended up on my mom's side staying. And then in Pensacola, that's where my dad ended up. My dad, his family ended up because there was a Navy base there. And right in the middle was Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Got you.
That's because, you know, so that we could get to both families at the same time. That's why we ended up there. It was a hell of a time.
Yeah, I bet.
It was a hell of a time. I mean, if you think about, most people when they think about Florida, they think about like Miami,
Yeah.
Orlando, Jacksonville. That's not where I'm from. I'm from the Panhandle. My family, they call it L.A., Lower Alabama.
Okay.
Is really what it is. And it's not the most progressive area in Florida.
Okay.
You know, and not to say that Florida is progressive at all, you know, but that area is not as progressive. When I say progressive, I mean more like, you know, liberal thinking. And so I had my challenges as a black male growing up in that area. And then my father, he spent 35 years in the police force in Pensacola, Florida. So you can imagine as a black man in that time on the police force, he went through a lot of stuff as well, right? My mom, she's half Filipino, half black. And when she was growing up, the black girls didn't really accept her because she was too light-skinned, right? And then the other side didn't accept her because she was too dark-skinned. And so my mom had a whole bunch of stuff going on. And so I'm in the middle of all this, right?
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I'm able to reflect back on the experiences that they had and think about, okay, that's why my mom made those decisions. That's why my dad was like that, right? And then being able to see myself and observe and say, okay, what are the changes that I want to make, or what are the things I want to take from that and build upon and then share with my daughters as they grow up.
Yeah.
So it was a hell of a ride, but I'm really grateful for the experience, and I'm really grateful to be in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, I'm curious too, because I did remember I'd seen in an interview you spoke on kind of the influence of your grandmother, and being Filipino, and you know, like we're both Eritrean, and you know, there's a lot of first generation immigrants, you know, here, and I think that's an experience that maybe sometimes you don't understand when you're a kid, right? You just go through it, right? You go through it, and whatever comes with it. But as you said, when you get older, you realize how important and monumental it was. But can you kind of speak on like what that was like, kind of experiencing like different cultures, right, in the household, and still having to come out and be seen as one thing only, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother, she's Filipino, so she is in that whole culture, that whole tradition of her upbringing, it's ingrained in me, you know. It's I mean, the lumpia, the pancit, the chicken adobo, you know, I don't eat balut, but that's you know, that's in there too. And she grew up in Dulag Leyte, the barrios of Dulag Leyte, which is basically, it's the slums.
Okay.
And so you know, she got some shit to her too. You know, and she's had to overcome a lot, and I love her to death, but she's hard to live with, just because of that, you know. But she's an incredibly strong woman, strong-minded, strong-willed, and you know, more so than just the tradition and the culture that she brought that mentality to our family. You know, my mom is incredibly strong-minded and strong-willed because of my grandmother. I'm incredibly strong-minded and strong-willed because of my grandmother, right? And so it's not just you know, she was a devout Catholic, so that's kind of like where I'm a recovering Catholic, I'll say that. But that's kind of where my introduction to faith began.
Got you.
So my grandmother had an incredible influence on my life and who I am today, and obviously the father that I am to my children. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this: it wasn't as relevant to me about the the mixing of my culture, right? Until I got a little bit older, and you know, I'm on the football team, and they call me light skin, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, because you know, in Florida, you're black, you know, whether you're light skin or dark skin, you're black. So it was just a different experience, and then so getting older and realizing like, you know, I can embrace that part of my culture and talk about it more, and then I obviously, as an adult, reflect on how it's impacted me. It's been critical to my progress as a human, but also the intentions of me being a father. You know, plays a big part.
And I think those are like subtle privileges that we don't recognize as privileges. You know, until like later on. Now you did mention football, right? And so
I didn't, but you did. Go ahead.
So kind of getting started in football early on, right? Like let's take it, say like high school. Like when did you start playing? When did it start becoming something you really wanted to jump into?
I started playing when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first interaction with football was the terrible field on the back end of the Salvation Army that my mom worked at. So she worked in the front end at the administrative part of it. And in the back end, there was like a community program, summer program. And they ran all kinds of athletics out of there. So basketball, t-ball, obviously football. So football was that was the first introduction to sports. And so my first year, 6 years old, I quit. Yeah, I quit. It was too hot. And I didn't like getting hit. All right. And then, so the following year, my mom was like, she said, do you want to try out again? I was like, yeah, I'll try out. And she told me, she said, well, if it gets too hot or you don't want to get hit, I'm not going to let you quit this time. I said, all right, whatever. So we go out there, and same thing. It's too hot. And we had some dudes who played football. Right? Like before, but when I got there, I was kind of like the new kid. And I'll list off names, but it's pretty incredible how many guys we had. But I wanted to quit again. My mom wouldn't let me. And then that year, we ended up going to the championship game, and I made the 3 final tackles, and the last one was the game-saving tackle. We ended up winning the championship. And then my entire career, Little League football, we won every city championship except for 2.
Wow.
Yeah, and that still weighs on my heart.
Wow. Man, that's the essence right there.
Yeah, that's where it all started. Salvation Army, Southern Youth Sports Association, and then went to high school, and that was a different experience because the kids I was playing with in high school, those are the kids I played against in Little League, right? And so they had a preconceived notion of who I was, right? And then same situation with my mom, like because I was, I spent most of my time playing sports in Pensacola. You know, now I'm going into school at Gulf Breeze High School. I wasn't like really accepted by either group, right? Because I live in Gulf Breeze, playing in Pensacola, but I played in Pensacola in black, and now in Gulf Breeze.
And
right?
then there's a lot to factor into when it comes to like at that age, like you kind of want to. It's hard to just jump in and fit in, right? Especially in sports. You know, sometimes these kids have been playing together up until high school, and they kind of
absolutely
they already have their family made and created. I'm curious because, you know, I feel like there's elements of people as teens and in their younger years that play major roles in their current success, right? As adults. And speaking of your high school football experience, your former high school coach, Chris Namath, right? I read somewhere where he mentioned when he was describing you, he said he wasn't always the tallest, wasn't always the biggest, but he always been a I want to prove you wrong guy. He enjoys and relishes in proving people wrong. So, like, where did that mentality come from, and why did that occur?
Yeah, you know, I've had a lot of time to reflect on who I am as a man and what has got me to this point. Because, you know, I think from a fan's perspective, everybody sees all the glitz and the glamour, right? Like, oh, you made it to the NFL. But people don't realize, like, there's a dark side to that, right? In order to play in the NFL and to be good at the NFL, you got to have some shit wrong with you. You know, you really do. To put yourself through that, what we put ourselves through, like, you got to be crazy in some ways. And so when I stepped away from the game, and I'll be honest with you, it took me 8 months to like kind of get healthy again. I'm not a doctor, but I would say I was clinically depressed after I left the game. And so I took a lot of time, multiple therapists, just reflecting on like, okay, why am I feeling this way? You know? And what I realized and what I believe to be true is that it was from my childhood trauma. You know, like I was in an environment that wasn't necessarily safe. It wasn't healthy. And my outlet to try to control my environment was football, right? And when anybody said that you couldn't do this or I couldn't do that, like it was basically saying that you can't be safe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'll fight you to be safe.
Yeah.
That's real.
You know what I mean?
That's real.
And look, you see me on the football field making great catches, right? And it's like, oh, great job. Like, yes, I have perfected my craft and I wanted to master it, but the motivation behind that, right? That's something that I had to deal with and get healthy with, because, you know, we see it when people leave the game, they struggle because they're dealing with that trauma that they've never like actually unpacked.
Yeah.
And so I had to unpack that. I knew it was coming. My wife is incredible. She's just an amazing human being and helped guide me through that.
Yeah.
And then obviously some incredible therapists. But it took me a lot to realize that, and that's really what it came down to.
Okay.
And I know, you know, Coach Nemeth and I, we have great conversations about that even to this day. But he was one of the first people who kind of, I think, recognized that in me. You know, not only just as a trait for football, but also like what is this about your character? And so that, you know, obviously that resonated with me even to this day.
Yeah.
Which is why I go and reflect on it.
Yeah. No, that's real, man. Thank you for sharing that in terms of like connecting it, because I think sometimes, like when I read the quote, it was like, oh, okay, like people think like as athletes should, like, yeah, go ahead, prove people wrong, go against the resistance and stuff like that. But there's more to it than just that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you shared that, because I think there's a lot of people who kind of what's working for them may not necessarily be
healthy for them,
right?
Yeah.
So that's real, man.
So were there, like, growing up, were there like any other things you were interested in outside of football?
Yeah, actually, I loved playing with Legos. I love building Legos. My mom, she would go to garage sales every weekend, and when she would find Legos, she would buy them for me, and we'd dump them in this big plastic container. And on the weekend, sometimes I would just dump them out in the middle of the floor, and I'd just be playing Legos the whole weekend. So I actually wanted to be an aeronautical engineer.
Wow.
Yeah, that I had no idea what that really meant, to be honest with you. But that's what I told myself I wanted to be coming out of high school. And I really wanted to go to Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech didn't recruit me. I sent them a highlight tape, no call back, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, so I was really big into engineering, big into building things, and even still to this day. So those same Legos, like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I got those. They were still at my mom's house. I shipped those up to Seattle, so they're at the house now.
Nice.
I play with them with my daughters, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. That's something I've always been fascinated with, and still to this day.
Nah, man. I think, man, everything plays a role. Everything plays a role, bro. And sometimes you have to. That's why I think reflection is just super key. You know, because we can't just go through life thinking that we're not writing stories, right, in our own books and our own journeys. So. Now, you didn't go to Georgia Tech, right? You actually decided to come to the West Coast, right, and attend Stanford and play there. And I think for a lot of, you know, collegiate athletes, it's a development period, right? Like you go through and you obviously go into another level physically. But what was that experience like for you, I guess, going through Stanford? Obviously, you guys won the Orange Bowl and but like you said, on the surface, it looks one way. I guess what were some of the things you learned the most through that experience there at Stanford?
Resiliency. That's the biggest one, because I almost quit my junior year. I had a really, really hard time with Jim Harbaugh. I'm gonna be just flat out honest, and a lot of us did. You know, I think Jim was at the time, he was really trying to establish himself as a coach, and so he was a hard ass, and he made it really hard on a lot of us. You know, I don't think how he handled himself in that time was great, positive, but I am grateful for that experience because it taught me a lot, right? Taught me a lot about resilience and understanding that there's going to be some situations where just shit is out of your control, and you just got to put your head down and grind until you get to a brighter day. And I did that, you know, albeit I almost quit because I mean, it was a hard time. I called my mom. I was like, look, whatever you got to do, I can't be here anymore. And, you know, she kept pushing on me to stay, and I ended up hanging up on her. And she remembers that to this day because she reflects on it now. She's like, I was so worried about you. But it was a hard time, I would say, then my junior year, but in totality, when I zoom out and think about it as in a full experience, it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life, because I'm going from Pensacola, Florida to Palo Alto, California. Completely different worlds.
Totally different.
Completely different worlds.
Yeah.
It was a culture shock. I get there, and we're the early arrivals, so we're in the dorm rooms before the regular students get there. And so I had a little bit of time to get adjusted, but then the students get there, and like, man, Stanford is like, you have people from all over the world who are incredibly intelligent. It made me feel like I didn't belong all over again.
Like that imposter syndrome?
Yeah. It was heavy. But in the process, I'm like, nah, I'm going to prove y'all wrong. You know, it's that, like, I need to find that safety and feel comfortable and feel accepted.
Yeah.
And so I grind through that. And then, you know, even pushing through that stuff my junior year and being able to come back my senior year and play, that just, you know, obviously it added to the mindset of like, I'm capable of doing whatever I put my mind to. It was a beautiful experience, and I would say the thing that I pulled from that experience the most was resiliency.
Definitely, man. That's powerful stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
So, like, how did you balance being a student and an athlete?
I didn't. I mean, I'm gonna be straight up honest. I was a terrible student. It's really hard to do. Yeah. It's really hard to do. And I don't know how some students do it. I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, if I could go back, I would do some things differently. I don't know if the outcome would be different, but I would do some things differently. But it was really, really hard. Yeah. I didn't do as well as I would have liked, and I constantly think about going back to school. I want to at some point, but it's just not in the cards right now. But it was definitely, I didn't balance it.
Oh yeah,
it's tough. But it's tough though, man. Like because we went to Washington State University, and I remember speaking to one of my friends who played on the football team, and he was just telling me how, like, they would always encourage the athletes to go with whatever is the least resistant or easiest kind of education.
Yeah, the football majors.
The football majors, right?
Yeah.
And so that in itself, like, I think that also kind of plays a role in, you know, kind of steering people into directions that maybe they don't want to go into, but they're being told, you know, because you're kind of getting guided there. So I think there's a lot that plays into it that people don't realize. That factors in.
I bring that up just because, I mean, I wasn't even an athlete. Now it was hard for me. So I'd be looking at you guys like, damn, that's
true.
Like, when do you guys sleep? You know what I mean? So
No, it's always going to be a challenge when you are in an environment that is new to you, and then you're trying to figure out, like, okay, you know, how do I get to practice on time? How do I get my schoolwork done on time? It was a challenge. And, like, to your point about it pushing you down a path that you may not have wanted to go down, like, it kind of felt that way. Looking back on it now, it felt that way. But I'll say this, like, now that I'm removed from the football sphere, right, I'm looking to prove myself again, right? And now with the tool belt of knowing that it's okay if I don't feel safe in this environment, because I'm still safe. You know what I mean? Like, I've worked through that unpacking that childhood trauma to get to a point where that motivation can now be healthy. Right. And now I'm in the business realm, and I'm attacking all those same elements, applying all those same elements to the business arena. You know, like, you know, just there's a lot of mindsets out there like, oh, you're an athlete. You know, like, I'll share a story with y'all. So I have a good friend who came from Stanford with me. He actually was out here, got him a couple of jobs, right? But I always felt unsettled about him for some reason. And I think what it came down to, and we had a falling out here probably 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And what I came to find out is that he never respected me as a businessman. He only saw me as an athlete. You know, I felt that from him at Stanford, like, oh, you're just here because you're on scholarship for football. You're not really here as a student. You know, he was here as a student, and you know, that motivates me to be like, nah, I'm gonna prove you wrong. You know, and that still sticks with me even to this day. But I'll say this, I think about it in a more healthy way, right? Like, before, I'd be really vindictive, you know, and want to really rub it in his face. But now it's like, nah, thank you for that motivation. Thank you for pushing me in a direction. Thank you for revealing something to me that I didn't know and realize before.
Yeah.
And even though you were wrong,
Yeah.
I'm still grateful for that experience that I had. And I hope that it impacts you just as much as it impacted me.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm having a healthier mindset about it. But to your point, yeah, it does push you in a direction that sometimes you don't want to go.
Yeah, but that's a good point too, because one of my biggest like mantras is like lead with empathy, and I think what that taught me is like regardless of what someone else may or their perspective may be, you lead with empathy first, and then you're able to understand. Okay, you just don't have context.
Yeah.
Right. You're just missing context, and I think a lot of people out here are just missing context.
Yep.
You know, and when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, all right, cool. It ain't me.
Yeah.
It's you.
I think about that all the time. Playing basketball at LA Fitness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We get some new cats coming in and like they exude this behavior, this personality. I'm just thinking to myself, like, what did they go through in their childhood that made them like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Like I don't want to get mad at them. I don't want to hate on them. I don't, which is my natural tendency.
Yeah.
So I try to lead with empathy and think, okay, what's going on in their lives is making them respond this way, you know? And then that way, at least I feel like I can respond a little bit better sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of been a practice I've been utilizing, and it helps to just deal with people, even like not only just conflicts, but just in general.
Yeah. For sure.
So, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that's going to help a lot of people in terms of who are currently maybe being in college right now, even not being an athlete, but just being a student. It's going to be helpful. Yeah. Now, when you arrived to Seattle, right, and your journey was a little different, right? Coming out of Stanford and being undrafted, and I think that's an experience in itself. So my question is, and we've actually had someone on the show who went through that experience as well, but I think it's different for everybody. But my question is more so, how does one stay like mentally engaged and locked in and focused when your name is not called on the draft board? Like, what was that experience like for you?
It was devastating. I remember exactly where I was, who I was with. That guy that I was telling you, that the friend from Stanford, he was there with me. My girlfriend at the time, we were at this Mexican restaurant across the street from where I was staying, and it was the third day of the draft, and I just see all these names rolling off the screen, and it's not my name. And I had my phone ready. I got a call from I didn't have we had a new punter that came, and he transferred. I didn't have his number saved in my phone, but he called me, and I thought it was an NFL team calling me. I'm like, hello? And Zelensky, I think that's, Z. And he was like, hey, it's Z, yada, yada, yo, trying to ask me for something. Man, leave my phone alone. And I hung up on him, right? I regret that because I felt bad about that. But, it was, I had been playing since I was 6 years old.
Yeah, for sure.
And you get to that point, and you're like, I'm for sure getting my name called.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't get that experience. And I cried. I cried for it was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours after that. I just stayed in the Mexican restaurant. The lady came and brought me some extra tacos. Like it was devastating.
Yeah.
And then it was in the lockout period. So after the draft, the teams can't talk to you. So even if you were, if they wanted to bring you in as an undrafted cat, they couldn't talk to you during that time. The only reason why I had a connection to Seattle was because Sherm got drafted, and Sherm was one of my best friends at the time. Still is, obviously. But so he was talking to the coaches because he had already been drafted, and then he was relaying those messages back to me. So we were going back and forth. And it came down between San Diego, because I wanted to, my girlfriend at the time, just being young-minded at the time, wanted to be in San Diego. So glad that I came up to Seattle, but it was a difficult. It was difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still blessed to be in that situation, right?
For sure.
But as a kid with the aspirations of, like, first and foremost, walking across the stage to get your jersey from the commissioner, like that would have been
it's a moment.
Ideal, right? But at the very least, just hearing your name called, I didn't get any of that. So when I did get the call to come, which was it was literally, I think it was 3 days before training camp began. So, the lockout ended and we had 3 days. And so signed with Seattle, and I came up here with literally like 3 pairs of clothes and 2 shoes.
Wow.
2 pairs of shoes. Because I'm like, this is all I got. So I'm just,
either
I'm going to make it, or I'm going to be on a flight back to Florida here soon.
Yeah.
And I'm still here.
Nah, man,
we're here talking now.
That's powerful, because I think a lot of times people can learn from that. Not just being an undrafted player, but just in general, right? That, like, sometimes things just don't go our way.
Yeah.
But it's about how you maintain the mentality of saying, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
How do we continue? How do we move forward? And I think that's important.
That's exactly what it was. It was what's next, right? So I got the call, came up to Seattle. Again, like I'm here to work, right? And so I got on the field and I'm like, I don't care who's in my way, just get out of my way. Yeah. Like I'm here to prove that I belong. And like, like I remember having conversations with Marshawn that very first week we're there, and like, Marshawn he's already kind of, he's already established himself, but I didn't care. You gonna respect me,
yeah.
And if you want me to earn my, I'll earn it, but you better give it to me. I'm gonna demand it.
Yeah.
And that got me in trouble sometimes, to be honest. But that was the mentality that I came here with, and again, I'm here talking to you.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I love hearing it because I think this is the context people need to know in terms of what it takes to build out a career, first and foremost, Yeah.
So, man, like going into your first NFL game, like what was your mentality? What were your feelings like?
The regular season or preseason?
Either or.
Well, I'll do both. So preseason, I was a little nervous. Right, of course, a little nervous, but I felt comfortable enough, confident enough in my abilities, like I belong here, right? And then there were some guys on the other team. I think we played the Broncos that first game. There were some guys on the other team that I had knew from college, so I was like, yeah, I know I can play against that guy, right?
Yeah,
so I felt a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And then through preseason and through training camp, like I got really, really confident. And then the first game of the year, regular season, was against San Francisco, and Jim Harbaugh was the new coach.
Just like a movie, right?
Yeah, for real.
Right. And ironically, and I say this ironically because two of the guys that were in front of me, they got hurt. So Sidney Rice was hurt, and then Deion Butler was hurt. And so I had to play that game. I was going to play a lot more that game. And I caught a pass from T-Jack and took it to the house, a slant, took it to the house for a 69-yard touchdown, right, against Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco.
Oh, man.
As you can imagine, like I felt really good about myself.
You love to see that. You love to see it.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is we lost that game. We did lose that game, so that was frustrating. But I'll say this. I remember two things from that game. I remember the touchdown, but I also remember running down on kickoff, special teams, and I'm running by myself, right? And they tell you, like, if you're running by yourself, if nobody's blocking you, you better look out, because somebody's coming to smoke you, right? But this is my first game, so I didn't know. So I'm running down there. I probably was smiling, thinking I'm about to make this tackle, and I don't remember what happened next. I just remember getting up off the grass and seeing the guy run past me, and the other guy was on top of me yelling. I'm just like, damn, this was my welcome to the NFL. Like the very first regular season game. Yeah, that was crazy.
Nah, that's interesting because I was also curious about this, and I think a lot of people will probably be curious. What was your first impression in terms of like the group of guys and team you had around you, like in those first few years? Because honestly, man, like the culture you guys went on to create is historical, right?
Thank you.
But in that moment, it was like coming in like, who am I dealing with? Like, what was that like? What was your impressions on them?
Well, first and foremost, I always get my boy G. Scott. He always argues with me about this, but I will say this: Pete Carrol, right? He allowed the foundation to be built. A lot of coaches don't do that. And so I want to give him proper credit for that. He allowed us as players to be ourselves. Now, yes, we did stretch some boundaries and test some boundaries, right? But he was always willing to be positive with us and communicate with us. Now, I'll say he didn't always do everything right. He ain't perfect. But I give him a lot of credit for allowing the foundation to be laid, because you got guys like myself, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, right? Guys who were just like, I don't care if you're first overall draft pick. I don't care. You're going to have to prove to me that you belong here and that you are part of our family. And that's the mentality that we had. We had that at Stanford, right? It was kind of a dog eat dog world at Stanford for us. And so when you had we all had a common enemy at Stanford. I'll say that, right? And so we all galvanized around that. And so we brought that, Sherman, I brought that kind of emotion to Seattle, I felt like. And then you had Cam and Earl, who were already here, and then obviously Marshawn, who were already on that mindset. And then not to mention the D linemen, Red Bryant, right? Mebane. Like, we had dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs who demanded that you earn it.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
didn't matter if you were a first round draft pick or undrafted, you had to earn it.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
It was such a real culture. You
Yeah.
know, it was like it wasn't built on how many followers you have on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't built on that shit. It was built on like who are you really as a man?
Yeah.
You know? And we called you out. If you weren't being real, if you weren't being honest about, you know, your shit, we called you out. And it was just beautiful, man. I miss it. I miss it, you know.
Yeah.
And it was
We do too.
We do. So, yeah.
it was an incredible experience. It was an incredible experience. And I shared this on G. Scott's podcast the other day. He's like, you know, how do you get back to that? And I said, you can't replicate that. That is a lot of childhood trauma, right? Human trauma that was all put in one place at the perfect time, like they hit lightning in a bottle, and you can't replicate that. And I don't think you should replicate that, because you don't want those children to go through that same cycle, right? You want them to be better and healthier. That's not to say that you can't win. You can still win. It's just do it a different way. Do it a healthier way.
No, definitely. And I think what you mentioned about Pete Carroll's kind of approach, when we had Cliff Averill on the show, he said the same thing in terms of how most coaches in the NFL is very militant.
Their way or the highway.
Yeah. And I think that's key, man. Sometimes you got to let people be who they are. And you know, at the end of the day, you'll figure it out, but you'll figure it out together.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. We're kids.
Yeah.
We were kids coming into the NFL. You know, we just talked about this. Like, I was in college trying my best, right? But I was focused on football. And so when you're focused on football, and, you know, to some degree, lower degree, but in survival mode, right? You don't have time to focus on other stuff.
Yep.
And so you're 22 years old coming into the NFL with a lot of freedom, a lot of, you know, just the world at your feet. And it's like, how do you manage this?
Yeah.
And you got to have some people in your corner who allow you to be yourself and work through that, but also put up the guardrails so that you don't go too far left or too far right. Yeah. And Pete did that, and he had some incredible people in the building who did that. Shout out to my girl, Kelly Creedon. She's an amazing person. Michelle, our nutritionist, our training staff, Coach Carlisle, our treatment people, our athletic trainers, Strick, D. Rich, Tank, like, you know, I'm naming people that people don't even know. Eric Kennedy, Chad, Drew, D, like, just man, it was
unsung heroes.
Yeah,
it was sure.
It was a culture. It was a family.
Yeah,
you know, and we all respected each other. We all demanded quality and excellence from each other. And we all loved on each other when we had our hard times. It was honest, it was curious, and it was graceful. It was forgiving.
No, it showed, bro. And I definitely think it bled into the fan base for sure.
Yeah.
We felt that.
I know.
For sure.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. It's still to this day.
Yeah.
You know, I feel it even in the stuff that I'm doing out in the community now, whether it's in philanthropy or in business. Like, I feel it, and people are still craving it. You know, and being able to know what that is and have been a part of it, and then to be able to bring it into these spaces.
Yep.
That's really, really powerful. It's a privilege that I have.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, definitely. And I'm also curious, in playing wide receiver, like with Russell Wilson, right? Because, you know, he was in there too. Everybody's trying to make it. Everybody's trying to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
But how did you go about developing the chemistry, I should say, with Russ? Because I think that's something that maybe fans don't really know about. Like, how does a wide receiver and quarterback build that chemistry outside of kind of the X's and O's?
Yeah, I mean, it's a process. And for me, because I was 1 year here before Russ got here, right? We had kind of established this culture and knew where we were going. And so really it was like, okay, we had to integrate Russ into it and then figure out where he fits in, right? And then just kind of how Pete did, just kind of let him grow into that. And so that was really what it was. Like, you know, he played the game a certain way. He liked to scramble, right? He liked to, when plays would break down, he would spin out of it and try to make something happen. And you had to be in tune with him in that, you know? If you weren't going to get the ball. And, you know, as a receiver, I want the ball. So I'm going to figure it out. And so that's really what it came down to, is like letting him kind of set the table and then saying, okay, how can I, you know, how I speak now, the language I say now is like, how can I serve you, right? How can I do what's best for you in this moment? And so that's really what it came down to. And, you know, obviously he was a great quarterback and still is, but he he kind of allowed that to happen as well, right? So we fed back and forth with each other, and it was a great relationship. It was a great partnership on the field, and obviously it worked out.
Yeah, no, definitely, man, definitely. I mean, it showed, and I'm just always curious about that because I think that's important, like building that chemistry, but also understanding what works for you, what works for me, and then we'll go make it work together.
Yep.
That's good.
And then I kind of wanted to ask, like, how important is it to pretty much be prepared for a game compared to, like, I don't know, the NBA, MLB, to where they're playing every day, so sometimes it's easy to check out, you know. But like in the NFL, you got to be on your P's and Q's every week, you know. So
you only got 16.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I don't know because I didn't play in the NBA, right? I didn't play it, and so I don't know what that's like. But I'll tell you this: in the NFL, like, it was a lot of energy, mental and emotional energy, exhausted before the game, and then obviously at the end of the game, right? Like, we'd have games, and I get home at 10 o'clock at night, and like my body's so beat up, so I do all the rehab stuff, do all the stuff to kind of like get my body settled, but then my mental is still going, and I can't go to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning. You know? And that was constant because you got so much adrenaline going through your body, and then you're you know, before the game, I'm kind of like putting this highlight reel in my head of like what I'm gonna do, going through my keys and my reads against that specific player that I studied or players that I studied that week. And then after the game, you're reflecting on the game. Like, I could have done this better. I should have done that. Or that was a hell of a catch. You know what I mean? You're going through all of that stuff, and your body it's. There have been veterans who have told, when I have expressed this to them, they said it's very similar to their experience in war. Right, I'm not saying it's related to war. Let me be very clear about that. Right, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's an emotional attachment that's very similar to that, getting up and then coming down off of that. It's a powerful feeling. So I don't know what it's like in the NBA, right? Because I can imagine you're playing 72 games or whatever it is now. Like, you know, it's hard to get up for all those games. So I can imagine that. But in the NFL, you got. Was it 17 now?
17, right? Yeah.
But that's all you got. And every one counts.
No, that's good. That's good insight. Now I wanna touch on what was the score? 43-8, right? 43, right?
43-8. That's right.
43, okay, I just want to make sure. Super Bowl, the Super Bowl win, man, in that season, magical season, amazing run. I guess from that entire season and run to not only to go out and win it all, right? But not only win it all, but also silencing some very, very, very loud and sometimes disrespectful critics, right? What do you take away the most from that season and run when you reflect on it?
Family. That's all I can remember. It was hard. It was really hard. We had a lot of internal problems, as most families do, right? But we managed them to the best of our ability. And when I take a look back on that, reflect on it now, like, it was just family, you know. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I had a really hard time with Percy Harvin. Really did. I love him to death, though, because to be completely honest with you, I don't know what his problem was with me. And you know, I mean, I kind of do. I'm a certain kind of way. I'm a dog. You know, like I said, like, I'm here and you're gonna have to deal with me. And Percy was the same way. And I love that about Percy. And so we went head to head a lot of times, you know, just because we were competing. I know he mentioned, I think it was a couple years ago, like, you know, we got into it and he actually apologized, right, on a podcast. And, like, I respect Percy as a man for that, you know, because a lot of men can't do that. And I'm really grateful for Percy because he taught me a lot of, like, he don't know this, but he taught me a lot of lessons in the NFL. And I'm really grateful for him. But you know, that's what I think about it now. It's like family, family, man.
Sounds like family.
It was
for real.
It was
definitely.
family. It was definitely family.
Yeah. That's big, man. That's big. And I think me and Erm were talking about this earlier, where I feel like sports is one of the best metaphors for life, right? And so for you have the privilege and honor to have experienced, obviously playing in back-to-back Super Bowls, but and I guess in reaching the mountaintop. But then having two different outcomes. Is there anything that you can kind of take away from that experience that may have, I guess, spilled in or bled into your life that maybe helped you or benefited you or gave you some perspective?
Which one are you talking about? The loss? Are you talking about
the win and the loss? I guess kind of experiencing both of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's just life, right? I think for us in that moment, like, it felt like the end of the world when we lost that Super Bowl, right? Like, that was because that was our life at the time. But you know, now as an adult with with married and 2 daughters and a third on the way, like that's life. You're gonna go through ups and downs. You're gonna deal with struggles, and the real question is, how do you respond to it? You know, and yeah, there's a lot of things in life during that time that I did not respond the right way. And even to this day, like there's things that I don't respond with. I mean, I'm sure, you know, you're going to put out this podcast, someone's going to be like, oh, you didn't say the right thing, right? Like, I know, I probably didn't. I'm sorry. Like, I'm human. I'm trying to navigate this world myself too, right?
Likewise.
But at that time, like, yeah, that was, it was our only focus. And so now as a father, I'm thinking about like, you know, like, my daughters are getting to a point now where they're kind of like, they're telling me what they want to do, right? And then I can only imagine what's going to happen when they're in middle school, about to go into high school, when they're in high school. And I'm like, dang, that's what God wanted me to deal with? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful and blessed.
Got to.
But at the same time, like, I know that there are things that I'm going to be experiencing in life, especially with my daughters, that are just out of my control, right? So then I ask myself, what is in my control? And what is in my control is how I respond. And I know the answer is always love.
It's always love, yeah.
Always.
So if I do that, right, and those are the lessons that I think football taught me. What you said is like, it's a perfect analogy for life. The resiliency. If you can find a way to answer the call every time, whether it's a high or a low, if you can answer that call in the right way, you're going to be all right. Regardless of the outcome, regardless of what happens, you're going to be okay.
That's real.
Right? And I think about my daughters. There's going to be things that my daughters experience in life that I can't protect them from, right? There's things that I went through in life that my mom and my dad couldn't protect me from, you know, hardship. But at the end of the day, as long as my daughters know that I love them and that they know what love is, no matter how dark it gets or no matter how bright it gets, they will be safe and they will be humble because they know what love is.
That's real.
They know what the sacrifice is. And
That's
if they
real.
know that, then I've done my job. I tell my wife this all the time. She jokes with me because like, she's like, you don't put me first? I do put my wife first. Like, that's my faith. But I tell her all the time, I said, if my daughters are joyful, I've done my job. Because if my daughters are truly joyful, that means that their mother is truly joyful.
That's
so if their mother is truly joyful, then I'm good. I've done my job.
Bars,
right?
gems.
Bars,
Take them notes,
real,
man. Well, those are life theories right there. Yeah, man. Now, I actually... You touched on it earlier in terms of obviously transitioning out of football and kind of retiring, and that's a process in terms of closing what I see as an elite historical career, right? Closing that chapter, you actually, in the process of doing that, you actually penned a letter to your younger self, right? Which was amazing, by the way. And one of my favorite parts from that letter was you said, "The end of one journey sees the beginning of another." Can you kind of elaborate on what that means? I mean, for some people it might sound like what it sounds like, but I guess what kind of went into that?
Yeah, so damn. I've been playing football since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
That's all I knew. You know, that was what my value in life was based on. My entire family identity was wrapped around that. You know, every Saturday morning, Little League games, that's where we were. That's where my grandfather was. That's where my grandmother was. That's where my aunts, my uncles, like, that's where we were. And so leaving that felt like I was leaving part of that as well. And I was, my grandfather on my mom's side, I was super close to him. He was there for every game. You know, helped rebuild the stadium at Salvation Army, right? The press box and the bleachers. Like, my grandfather was such an instrumental person in my life through football. And so taking a step away from that, like, that was, I don't know how to describe it. It was just the next, you know, phase of my life, the next journey, and it was really, really, really hard to do. And so I'm like, you know, I'm telling myself in real time, like, look, even though this is the end of this journey, it's just marking the beginning of the next one. You know, so don't get too dark in this. Don't get too down in this. Like, understand, like, that was a great experience that you had. It was just one chapter of your life. You got many more chapters to write. And so don't stop thinking about that, the narrative that you're telling yourself, but also the story that you're writing.
That's real.
You know?
That's real.
And so I wrote that to my younger self, but also to, like, you know, I got a 13-year-old brother who's coming up, who I am also mentoring in ways that, like, in real time, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm messing up here.
Yep.
I have no idea what this answer is, but I'm going to let you go through it with me so that at least you have some context. So when you get to this point, you have the answers that I didn't have.
That's important.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's not just, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be younger anytime soon, but, you know, anybody who's coming up who goes through that experience, they recognize, like, it's hard, but you'll get through it.
Yeah, and I bring it up because I think it's very inspiring, man, because I think a lot of people go through transitions, right? Like, sometimes whether it's your job, you know, sometimes you attach that as like your identity, right? But you want to evolve, you want to try to do new things, and that can be a difficult transition. So I think sometimes seeing it as that it's like, yo, it's a marathon, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a nip, it's a marathon. So it's like you're just starting a new journey, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a powerful letter, and I think it definitely resonated with a lot of us, for sure.
So going into that, like, what were some of the steps you took to kind of transition out of football and into like the rest of your life?
The first thing I did was get a therapist. You know, and I think even in our culture, in our with our people, we don't really look at therapy as a tool, as a resource. You know, and I didn't for a long time either. My wife had to kind of force me to do it. We got engaged, and she told me, I'm not getting married until we go through therapy, we get marriage counseling together, and we did. And it was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever been through. Because really what it is just a mirror putting up in front of you to reflect yourself at you, you know?
That's real.
All of your blind spots, all of the things that you don't really see, right? Somebody's speaking life and truth into you, and then you have to deal with it. And then to what I said earlier, it's all about how do you respond to it,
That's real.
you know? So I retired. 3 days later, my daughter was born. So I had really no time to mourn, right? Like in a proper way. I just had to go right into fatherhood. And you know, I don't know if, you know, most fathers even think about this, but like I was dealing with postpartum. You know, my daughter was born, and now my whole world, not only is my world changed, my whole world is changed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done with football, and then I got a daughter, and I don't know the first thing to do with this baby, right? And I mean, it was
no, it could be. I could see it as being very overwhelming.
It was very overwhelming. And so the first thing I did was get a therapist, and still talk to her to this day. Now I have 3. I have my pastor that I talk to every Monday. I've got our marriage counselor we talk to once a month, and I got a specialist who just focuses on me. Talk to him twice a month. And I mean, I'm blessed to be in a situation where I can afford that, right? But I tell you, like, it's been the most impactful for me, and I know every time I come out of those sessions, I'm a better person. You know, if I go a period of time without seeing them, I can feel like I tell my wife it's like the devil's attacking me. I can feel the anxiety and the negativity starting to creep in my mind.
That's real.
And then that's when temptation pops up. That's when the negative thoughts pop up. That's when I need to go get affirmation from other places, right? But then when I come out of those sessions, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And here's some things that I can work on, and I see the goals and how I'm gonna get there. So then it's, you know, it's self-affirming. And I just feel so much better when I come out of this. So, you know, out of all the things, right, I got an incredible wife, an incredible family, but therapy was one of those things that I will give credit to for sure.
That's powerful, brother. That's powerful, man. I think, and I'm glad that is becoming more and more, I guess, normalized, if you want to call it that, because it's important, man. We're nobody's perfect, right?
And I hope it does become more normalized. Like, I'm dealing with my mom. My mom don't want to do it, you know, and I'm struggling with that right now. Because I know that there's something deeper, there's something greater, right? And I want that from my mom, like, especially as a father with 2 daughters and a third on the way. I need my mama. You know?
No, that's real.
I need my mama, and so I hope that message comes through. Let's normalize it.
No,
let's normalize it.
We definitely need to, and I think also just is normalizing, understanding that we're all works in progress, and if you're serious about that, then you're gonna, you know, you're gonna do whatever you got to do to fix yourself.
Right. But let me be clear about something though. Not all therapists are good therapists, right? There are some bad therapists out there. Let's be honest. Just like there's some bad doctors, just like there's some bad police officers, bad teachers, right? There's how you know if it's a good therapist is their answer always love? If their answer is always love, they are a good therapist.
Okay.
And if you want to ask me what love is, and we can go, how much time we
We
got?
good.
I'm a man of faith.
Yep.
And when I say I'm a man of faith is I believe in Jesus Christ. Now, I know when I say that, a lot of people get offended sometimes, right? But what I mean by that is I believe what Jesus taught. What Jesus said was love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two things that Jesus said we were supposed to do. That's it. That's it. So all the other stuff, right, it's just basically the law saying that you can't live up to this or this is not right or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But he said what your job is to do is to love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. That's what I believe in, right? So if your therapist is telling you what love is, right, then that may be a good therapist.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. It's powerful stuff, brother. And I think we're moving in that direction now, where I think collectively there's a lot of healing going on.
I think so too.
And I think it's important. I think, for those listening and watching, start with figuring out what just makes you feel like you're healing at first. You know, it doesn't. Sometimes for some people it doesn't have to be therapy, and that's fine. But just figure out what you need to do to get to a better place.
Amen.
Right.
Exactly.
And then thank you for sharing that too. Thank you. Now I do want to kind of get into some of the current projects that you're working on, and I know they're busy, but for good reasons. And one of those is obviously the Family First Community Center, right? Which is being built in Renton, correct?
Correct.
And from what I was able to gather, it's designed to bring quality recreation, education, and wellness programs and services for the underserved in the Renton community. I guess my question is, where did that stem from? Where did the vision stem from to say, hey, I want to build this, right?
Those words that you're reading right there, like that's like the corporate
got you
version.
Okay,
right?
well, give me the.
I mean, you got to have that, right? Because you got it has to be explained. But really what it is just a place for kids and families to come to be seen and to be loved.
There you go.
That's all it is.
There you go.
That's all it is. Where it stems from is I grew up in the back end of the Salvation Army where I was seen and where I was loved, right? And I know that the person that I am today, I wouldn't be if I hadn't gone through that experience, if I wasn't there at that place, right? That was like my second home. It made me feel safe. It made me feel seen. I was loved there. Like you walk in the door at the back end of the Salvation Army and the guy sitting at the front desk, his name was Eddie Brown. You saw him every day. Yeah. Right? And as a little kid, I would come in there and he'd give me some candy, right? Yeah. Kids want candy, right? So, he would always have snacks for us, always taking care of us. And he was the first person you see when you walked in there, right? And you had Coach Bernard, who was kind of like the military kind of guy, right? Like, here's the rules, here's the standard, you're gonna live up to them, right? You're gonna live by them. And then we had Coach Lumen, who was the executive director, who was walking around and just like making sure everything was good, and knew all the kids by heart, by name. And then all of our coaches, right? And it wasn't just these four walls. And I say this every time that I talk about the community center that we're building. Like it's an incredible facility, right? We're putting everything that you can think of, modern technology, modern experience into this facility. But it's not just about that facility, because it could be a state-of-the-art facility, but if the people in there don't really care about you, then it's not a safe place.
That's
right?
real.
So the people that we are hiring and that we're bringing and recruiting, the family that we're building, the culture that we're building, and that is very similar to what we built in with the Seahawks. Right? You're gonna come. You're going to be seen. You're going to be loved. Here's the standard. Take care of our shit now. Right?
Yeah, facts.
But you're gonna, when you come in, like, you're a part of our family. And I crave that, even as an adult to this day. Like, I crave that. So being able to provide that to the city that I now call, I don't want to say city, this region that I now call home, it's a beautiful thing. And it has taken a long time to get to this point. It's been over 8 years to get to this point. But once those doors open, man, like that's
monumental.
That's
man.
That's me.
And then, one thing that really sticks out to me is, and like kind of like what our platform is built on, is for the next generation, right? The stories we're producing are for the next generation, and this is a contribution that's going to live on, right? Yeah. Way long after we're here. So,
one of the lessons I learned is that a true leader builds a culture that holds the leader accountable. And if the culture is good enough, it remains even when that leader is gone.
That's big.
Yeah.
And I think about, look, we can say whatever we want to about George Washington, the first president of the United States, but I think one of the greatest decisions he made was to have a term for presidency, right? You can't be a king. And I don't know. I just feel like, they established something. Now, let's be real.
Yeah.
The United States has its issues,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we're still standing to this day.
Yeah.
The country is world renowned for good reasons and some bad reasons.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress,
Definitely.
right? And I think it was that one decision that kind of sent us in this direction. And I just resonate with that. And I want to build culture, and I want to build the leaders of tomorrow that continue to drive that culture, so that when the leaders that are young now, that will be the leaders in the future, when they're gone in the future, the world will still be moving in the right direction.
That's real. That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
We definitely appreciate you for that, man. Like, just the community engagement in the whole region, not just the city, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, you guys played football, you played football, and we watched you guys play football, but when you guys go outside of football and start doing stuff in the community, it's like, I feel like that's where the real W is,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
For sure.
No,
Yeah,
definitely.
For sure. That's where the W that really matters is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's real, man. And then I remember we spoke about this, but you and a couple of your former teammates, Cliff
and
Averill
Mike
and Michael Bennett,
Yeah.
You guys have launched Champions of Change, right, nonprofit. Can you speak a little bit about kind of the mission behind that and kind of what people can expect from it?
Yeah, it's exactly what you just said, right? So we're taking that same mentality, that same philosophy that we had that brought us so much success in the football world. We're bringing that to the philanthropic world, right? So it's the mindset of like, I don't care if you are a multi-billion-dollar company and or a company that's just getting started. Like, are you serving people? Are you taking care of people? Are you representing love? And if you are, then you have a chance to compete here, right? You have a place here.
I like that.
And so that's what we're building, right? And so the organizations that we're supporting just this year, that's the representation.
Gotcha.
Right? This organization called Dads, Marvin and Jeanette Charles, like I love them as human beings, right? Like, they have an incredible story. And I'm, again, not saying that they're perfect by any means, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But they're just good people. They're trying really, really hard to make an impact in the world. And, if I can support their organization so they can scale and do more of that, then that's a W, right?
Exactly.
That's real.
So, Cliff, myself, Mike B, we're coming together to highlight these organizations, put some fun into it, right? Galvanize the region because they recognize us as the former Seahawks, but then being able to spotlight these organizations and then show the impact that it's having. If we do that continuously, like, that's, I don't know what can happen.
That's a win-win. Win-win-win.
It is.
Win-win.
For real. It is. And the point, it's, I don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we know that even just we haven't even raised any money for them, but because they're being spotlighted just in the conversations that we're having, things are being brought to them.
Definitely.
Right? And so we know that they're going to be able to scale, but the impact that they're going to have, like, I won't be on this planet to see that, right? Like, I will be gone, but to me, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the beauty of it.
And sometimes, and I think sometimes people just, like you said, just want to be seen or heard.
Yeah.
Right? Seen or heard. That's it. Right? Like, sometimes that goes way further than anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think what you guys are doing is, like you said, putting that spotlight on people, because there's so many people out here doing work, man. And they're not going to stop doing work, you know, but it's good to, like, be able to acknowledge and recognize them for what they're doing.
And we can always learn something from them.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has a past. Everybody has something that they've learned that they can then impart onto you. And I'm perpetually curious.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
And so, even that to me, that's a benefit that I didn't realize is that, we get connected to these people and they're doing incredible stuff. And I'm just like, how did you think of that?
Yeah.
Like, what experience in your life taught you that was the route to go? Because I want more of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an incredible thing. It's incredible.
I love it, man. And I did also see you guys you guys currently got you got an event coming up to help raise money and raise awareness, right? Celebrity basketball game, is that correct?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. We all got hoop dreams still.
Is that what the LA Fitness run's been for? Are you training for that game?
Yeah, exactly. We all got hoop dreams. So the guys over at Climate Pledge Arena, Todd Lawicki, he's a good friend. And we wanted to put something on that the region could get excited about. let's play basketball.
Yeah.
You know, we ain't had basketball here in a while. Like,
Man, let's do it.
It's coming though, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Hey.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
If you know something we
man.
don't know, you go ahead and tell us right now.
The whispers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whispers.
I like the whispers.
The whispers are getting louder.
I like
is
it.
what I'll say.
Let's get it.
When it comes, I'm gonna be courtside.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I want in life right now. I just want them courtside tickets to the Sonics. That's all I want. So anybody who's listening, you got the plug on that. Hook me up. No.
Hook me up too, man.
Yeah, me too. I ain't gonna lie.
No, but June 26th, we're putting on a celebrity basketball game at Climate Pledge Arena. Basically, it's just, you know, all the guys who played in the Super Bowl who, you know, are either not playing on other teams or, you know, are still in Seattle. Like we're, you know, inviting everybody out. But it's also just the community just to come out,
Definitely.
hang out, you know,
Definitely.
enjoy the basketball game, see some guys who, you know, are way past their primes trying to play
Think
some
they can
hoops.
hoop.
Yeah, but we got a great group of folks. You know, Jamal's gonna come out. I think IT's gonna come out. Gary
Nice.
Payton's gonna be a coach. Marshawn's a coach.
Dope.
Sherm's gonna embarrass himself on the basketball court. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I love it, man. I love it, man. No, I love it, man. I love that. I love
I
what
gotta pull up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I love that. I love that you guys are finding different creative ways to still stay engaged with the community, man. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful to see, bro.
So on top of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. So the week before that, before the game,
Okay.
June 18th, we haven't put it out yet, but I'm throwing a community barbecue.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hey.
So my grandfather, he was big in barbecue.
Okay.
Like every family function that we had, he was barbecuing, and to this day, there's still no better barbecue that I've tasted.
Come
right.
on.
And I always remember that feeling. You know, like you pull up at the house and like the barbecue's in the backyard, but you can smell it in the front yard. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you just like fix me a plate,
Yeah.
and then fix me a plate for later because I'm taking it home with me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to do. So earlier this year, or the last year, I should say, United Way reached out to me and wanted me to be the chair for their funding for the year.
Amazing.
It was, or it is, I should say. And there's to your point, like creative ways to work with different organizations. And I told United Way, I was like, let's do a community barbecue. Let's bring everybody in the region. So it's going to be at Renton Memorial Stadium on June 18th.
Okay.
More information will come out soon. We haven't put it out yet just because we're still working out the details. But we're expecting like 4,000 people to come out, and I'm bringing as much barbecue as we can. There's going to be tons of activities. The Seahawks are going to be there. The Kraken are going to be there.
Yep.
Kids Quest and Museum in Bellevue, dope group of people, like really empathetic when it comes to kids, right? They're going to have a big activity center there.
Okay.
So just, June 18th.
We're excited.
And it's $10 for a plate.
Okay.
But if you ain't got $10, still come on.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get you some
I
food.
got you.
Yeah, we'll get you some food.
Erm say he'll pay for you.
It's really, look, it's really not about, like, we're not really raising money. It's not really about that.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to try to raise some money.
Yeah.
But, just come.
Yeah, man. No, I think we need it too, man. I just think over the last couple of years, man, like it's important that we all get back to just,
being in community.
Being in community, man, and just enjoying life, man,
And eat some good food.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah, pass that up. Right?
Did you got anything else you wanted to tap on?
No. Yeah, I do kind of want to talk about like the ventures you were kind of in. You were a senior advisor for intellectual ventures. Yeah. So just talking about that experience, what you were doing, and
shout out to my boy Jerome Hewlett. He incredible dude. He recruited me to come work at Intellectual Ventures when I retired.
Oh.
Black dude who has been in the business world for a very, very long time. He was one of the first black dude. I think he might have been the first black dude in Wall Street on the floor. And so you can imagine he went through some stuff. And so he was, for whatever reason, he paid attention to me when I was playing, not just as a player, but like as a person. And so when I retired, I don't even know how we got connected, but he reached out to me and he brought me in just to see the lab over there at Intellectual Ventures. I fell in love with it. It was like Legos all over again, right? But then also for this older man to like truly see me, right? And again, like I had no idea what I was gonna do. Like I'm kind of lost at this time. It's like, you can do this. And spoke life into me.
That's real.
And then told me, okay, you're gonna come over here. You're gonna advise me and this group on some things. Like just share your perspective, right? And I got in there. I was like, oh, I can probably hang with this. I can probably do this, right? And then so I was there with them for 2 years. And then in this past September, one of the companies that I had been advising for, they needed a CEO because they were about to spin out, and they asked me to take it over. And I was like, who?
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
what you mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's a startup. Like, I had my own business. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm running my own business, but like that's my business,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know,
it's
like,
different.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
Like, this is, so it was a little bit different, but I said yes, and so I'm running with that now. That company's called Ventric. Our main product is called Theracentric. What it basically is this intersection between home exercise programs, engaging the patient to actually do their home exercise program, and then collecting data to see what the outcome is, right? To effectuate a positive outcome for the patient, which is a big deal because especially coming out of the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know, people are dealing with a lot of health issues that, you know, they need answers for.
That's real.
And it's not a fully remote option, right? Like that's, I know I'm going into details now, but it's I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about it because you know, a lot of people right now, they're building solutions that are just a fully virtual or digital experience for physical therapy. But I'm a professional athlete, and I'm here to tell you that you're not going to remove the in-clinic experience from the patient's recovery journey.
That's real.
Right? Like, physical therapy is a skilled profession. You have to put your hands on the person.
Yeah.
And so we're building our solution that's going to augment the clinic, expand their offering, and then these new codes that came out earlier this year, they expand an additional revenue stream, and we were building for that.
That's real.
And so now we're ready to
I'm excited, man.
to the moon.
I'm excited,
Yeah,
man.
I checked that out too, and I was just like, man, this is dope. He's the CEO of that too, like, and then you know we kind of looked into it.
It's not just the fact that it's a dope product, right? Because it is.
Yeah.
But I get to work with a team that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think that's the thing that I miss the most about the NFL.
The team.
It's not playing on the games. It's not, you know, scoring touchdowns, even though those things are nice. But it's like that camaraderie that you have in the locker room.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get that with this team, and they're all in. Like, they're grinding, and they have the mentality. They have the right mentality.
Yeah.
You know? And when I say right mentality, like, I feel like I know what I'm talking about from coming from a championship culture.
Definitely.
Like, they have the right mentality. And so being able to get up every morning, work with them, go and solving hard problems, like, I just love that.
I love that, man. I love that for you, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely,
Thank
man.
Me too,
No,
man.
that's amazing,
Appreciate
man.
that.
Yeah, man. Look at you, man. I'm inspired, bro.
For real.
Definitely, man. Now I know you're busy. I know you got to go. But before we get you out here, we always ask our guests this question. So if you can, my brother, what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up, and why?
Faith. Faith. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it pure joy, because you know when your faith is tested, when your endurance is tested, your faith has a chance to grow. So let it grow. Because when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect, needing nothing. You think about that from a perspective as a father now, right? Like, there's things that my daughters go through that I will not be able to protect them from, as I mentioned before. There's things that this world will present to them that are just things that I would rather them not be presented with. I don't have control over those things, right? We're going to go through experiences that are troubles. And James, the book of James tells us, he said, consider it pure joy, because in those moments, your endurance has a chance to grow. And when your endurance and your faith is fully developed, you can go through anything and be okay. You know? Like, I read books about people who were going through the Holocaust, right? Being in that situation and still holding on. And I forget what the name of the book was, but the guy said, the people who made it, who survived, they believed in something greater than themselves, right? The world sometimes can be a shitty place. It really can. And if you look at it that way, always negatively, you're probably not going to make it, right? But if you have something else that's bigger than you that you can hold on to, right, which right now is my daughters and my family, right, you can survive it, you know? But to that point, there's going to be things that my family, my daughters are going to deal with that I don't have control over. And if I really, truly, truly want to protect them and love them, I have to give them to God.
That's real.
Because God is the only one who can protect them. And when I say God, I mean love, right? If they know love, they will be okay.
That's real.
And the only way that I know how to demonstrate love to them in that way is through my faith. And so you ask me what word? It's faith.
Faith. Here you have it. I love it. I love it, bro. That's real, man. Man, Doug, I mean, we can sit with you forever, bro, honestly.
I enjoy this, man. I enjoy this.
But again, man, we just want to salute you, man, and thank you and give you your flowers, bro, for real, what you've done, what you've contributed.
Appreciate that. I'm not done, though.
No, definitely.
And I hope y'all have me back again once we get more
stuff
going.
Oh, yeah. Part 2 on the way. Definitely, bro. Definitely.
I got a lot more stuff to learn.
Definitely, man. We're excited, but we're honored to have you, man. And I know the people listening and watching definitely, especially if they're from out here, they definitely thank you for what you've done. Definitely legend in the city for sure.
Definitely.
And we're super excited to see what the next journey is going to look like. And you always got support with us here at the UpNUp, brother.
I appreciate you, my
Definitely,
brother.
man. And with that being said, I think it's safe to say Doug Baldwin Jr. is officially a member of the UpNUp. Can we get a round of applause? Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you.
To continue supporting the podcast and the entire UpNUp movement, be sure to rate, review, like, and subscribe.
As well as follow us at _the UpNUp on all social media platforms to stay connected with everything the UpNUp has coming your way.
Thanks for listening, and until the next one,
Keep it on the UpNUp.